to be looking at the key mistakes people make when outsourcing and delegating. And I'm joined by my amazing business partner, Carmen Williams. Hello, Carmen.
Hello. I just saw from the intro that you only talk to cool people, so that must mean I'm cool.
Yes, no doubt about that at all. Now, I often start the show with share something quirky or interesting about yourself, Carmen.
Oh, there's so much. Well, once I shaved off all of my hair. I did it for charity, raise money, but that was the reason I told everyone. I was really doing it to challenge my self-identity. Who was I if I wasn't the girl with long blonde hair? Yeah, there was still Carmen. So, that was profound.
How old were you then?
That was when I was pregnant with Tristan. So he's turning 12 now. So 12 years ago. So I was an adult in my 20s.
Ah, excellent. We can talk about that and go deeper. But today we're going to be talking about outsourcing and delegation. So they're terms that are bandied a bit around these days. Can you share a little bit about what they mean?
Yeah, outsourcing is actually a term I don't like, but I've used it in this presentation because it's a term that a lot of people use. So outsourcing is all about getting support in your business, and it usually has the connotation that there's going to be someone else over there, some sort of almost like robot type person who's going to do things for you. And I think this is a really limited view of how to get support in your business. I think it's actually better to get support in your business and grow a relationship with someone. So through a virtual assistant or someone that you're really going to get to know. And then delegation is the thing that you need to do really well to outsource, if you do want to use that word, or to work with your virtual assistant, or to get any support in your business and life. And so I really think delegation is a really helpful skill to develop. You don't need to be perfect. I say to all our clients, you don't need to be perfect. I'm not perfect, but it's all about being open to developing it, tweaking it, and continue to work on it so that you can get the outcomes that you want for your business.
Yeah, because it all sounds wonderful and easy. You go, oh yes, I've got the cash flow now. I need more support in the business. I want to get myself out of it. But it isn't quite as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, I think delegating is a really challenging skill. It uses a whole heap of components to get it right, and it's so contextual. And I often think about it can be a little bit painful to delegate, and a lot of the clients that we start working with, they're scared at the start because it's a new thing for them to get someone in their team to work with them to make it work. Maybe they've tried in the past and it hasn't worked, but I really think that it is so important to work through that stuff and work out a rhythm that's going to work for yourself and the person that you're delegating to, because otherwise you just simply can't grow. Like, you're going to just be stuck. So even if it is a little bit painful, like doing squats at the gym was the other day, I still did them because I knew that it was going to be good for me, good for my life, and in terms of delegating, good for the business.
Yeah. And after a while, the squats get easier, don't they?
Yeah. And then you
sort
put more
of.
weight in.
Or you find another exercise that gets harder. Yeah. So in terms of the mistakes that people make, we're going to be looking at 5 of those mistakes today. And I'm really excited about it because I want to get some ideas from Carmen as well, because she is so good at doing this and working with so many business owners and global teams. She's got some, common mistakes that people make and suggestions to avoid them. So if we just look at the first slide, we're going to be looking at a key thing that people get wrong, and that's not having the right person on the job. So what do you mean by this, Carmen?
Yeah, so when I'm scoping roles with new clients, it's really interesting because they might say, look, I want someone who's like super detailed, orientated and focused, and to send LinkedIn messages and do my bookkeeping. Oh, and I want them to be able to get on the phone and have a conversation with clients and really engage them. And it's like, that's not necessarily the same person. Like, it's actually unlikely to be the same person that wants to sit there in the corner, do the detailed ticking off process stuff and have engaging conversations with people. And so I really think that in terms of getting support in your business, it's about working out what the most important thing is. And, the bells and whistles, if we can incorporate them down the track, that's good. But what's the core fundamental thing that you need? And what I find, a common thing I find with people who are solopreneurs, or they might have a few people within Australia, and they're getting their first virtual assistant, what they often actually need is different to the bells and whistles of what they want. So they might want someone who can, charm the pants off someone, and someone who can do really sexy video editing. But what they actually need is often a process person to do this, to implement their ideas, to be able to do the day in, day out routine stuff, so that can free them up and perhaps free their other stuff up to do the other things within the business. So that's a common trend that I see.
Yeah. And so what I've made the mistake of doing in the past is, I think sometimes we get a bit fooled in the interview process, where we think we, choose the person who's sort of like us. We can connect with them, you talk to them, they give you the right answers. But sometimes it's not quite the right person, because that person being able to be like you isn't the most important thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I see this, and I don't want to pick on creative people, Maureen, but I will. So one of the trends I see with creative type people, and a lot of business owners are, they're visionaries, they're creative and whatever, and they're like, oh, I want someone to be able to be up to my level in making things, doing my creative stuff on Instagram or whatever it is. And it's probably not. Probably for now, if you're getting your first virtual assistant, that should probably stay with you. I love delegating. Don't get me wrong, and I am on a mission to delegate everything. But it's probably not the first thing. You probably don't want a creative genius. You're going to clash. They're going to have creative ideas that are different to yours. At the start, you should probably keep the creativity to yourself and get the person to implement it. So if you come up with creative things, putting it out on social media, doing that day in, day out stuff, the routine stuff that needs to happen, so that you can, ponder and look up to the sky and get your creative juices flowing. So that's one trend I often see.
Yeah. So it sounds like it can go wrong if you don't get the right person in the first place.
Yes, yeah. And it's actually can be challenging to work out what's important for the business owner around the virtual assistant, because they come with all these ideas. And I say to our clients, Maureen, we meet with them and we work out that we're probably going to be a good fit, and then we organize another session and I place them. I say, in that session, you come to me with all your hopes and dreams, and my job is to then dash them. Get really practical around what is possible and what isn't possible as well. And so I think it's really important that if you are going to work with someone to support you to get a virtual assistant and work with them, is that they don't promise you the world and say it's all going to be rainbows and lollipops, because it's not necessarily going to be like that. So be really pragmatic around getting support in your business.
Yeah. And the other thing that I find really fascinating from discussions with business owners is sometimes they think that they really need a skill like somebody who is an expert in Kajabi or an expert in a particular software, where really that's not the case. They actually need someone who can learn or grow with the business or pick those things up. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Maureen. So often when I speak to the business owners, they quickly work out through my questioning that, maybe a particular expertise in a particular software program might not be the most important thing. But if they're slow to that, I have to just stop them and say, look, Maureen, I need to be really honest with you. From what you're saying, I don't think we're going to get the best candidates if we stipulate that they have to have XYZ experience. And then I go on to explain why, because the most important thing from what you've told me is that they can communicate with you, that they're passionate, that they're whatever. And that particular experience, if we restrict the pool of candidates to people who've only got that specific experience, then you're probably not going to get the best outcome for your business. And so I have to be really upfront about what strategy I think is going to be the best in terms of sourcing someone to support you in your business.
Okay, great. So let's cover off that first point. So one of the mistakes people have is not having the right person for the job or for the role. So that's something that we can support you with. Or if you're going to go out there and do it yourself, try and find that person. Be really mindful that it's a little bit like finding your husband or your wife. You've got this big checklist, but usually you don't end up with that exact person who fulfills all those ticker boxes. It's about a connection and a fit, and the person's going to really fit well and grow with your business. So thanks, Carmen. That's number one. Number two, if we can just have the next slide, thanks, is delegating a problem that is too big. That is another mistake that business owners make when they're delegating. So can you share a little bit about this one, Carmen?
Yeah, and I want to preface it with, this can be a bit hard, and sometimes I get it wrong, but it's about having awareness over this so that you can switch and change. So when I have people come to me and say, "Oh, Carmen, I just want someone to like build me a funnel, or just like get me leads, or just be my second brain," like I really need to delve into what they mean by that, because those problems are all too big. You can't just expect a virtual assistant to take that big problem in your business and solve it for you. Like if you aren't getting leads on social media already, you can't just give that problem to someone, but you can say, "Hey, could you support me? Could you put captions on this video? Could you post it here? Could you do this?" so that they can help you with your strategy around getting leads. And so I think if you're going into this thinking a virtual assistant is going to be this magic balm that's going to make everything okay, like I think you're a little bit, like, they're amazing, but I think you are a little bit deluded in terms of the size of problem that you give them. So for example, at the start, we've got a client. He's a creative visionary sort of person, and he's like, "Oh, I just want this person to optimize my social media." But I actually supported him to break it down. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, and to give the virtual assistant more guidance. And so, like, for example, one of the things was, could you please test, because he's got audience all around the world, could you test whether posting at this time or this time has a better effect? So from, just like optimize my social media, to actually try this and this. Now, over time, as the relationship grows, as the context grows and matures, then that person will be able to take more, initiative to understand what the business owner means when they're giving them a big problem. But it's about identifying the size of the problem that's appropriate to that person, that stage of maturity, that relationship.
Yeah. So what is something that they might not be able to do that might be too big a problem in the beginning that over time your VA could do for you?
So, for example, just say you wanted your virtual assistant to edit a video. There are like a quadrillion different ways to edit a video. And so they don't know what's in your head. They don't know that you've been checking out Kerwin's Ray's videos and you quite like how he does it. And so it's about being able to say, "Hey, could you try and do it like this?" Or, could you actually do a pattern interrupt here? Or, how that like transitions from here to here. I really like that. And so it's about being more specific about the sort of things that you want your virtual assistant to be able to support you with.
Yeah. So it sounds like giving examples is the way of someone else is doing it is a really good way to help get the specifics.
Yeah, and so to break it down. So if you find yourself saying, "Oh, I just would like this outcome," so it's fine to go, yeah, it's great to share the outcome you want, but you've put thought into how you might get to this outcome. So perhaps share some of that context with your virtual assistant. Now, saying that, as things grow and mature, you're able to give bigger problems. So, for example, a marketing manager, Charles, I was able to ask him to look for a phone system for one of our team. He asked me what was important and everything. And so he was able to go and make a decision about a phone system. He didn't need to come back to me. I didn't need to research them. He was able to make that decision independent of me because he learned about what was really important. And so, but he probably wouldn't have done that on the day one of starting. And so it's really important to recognize that these things mature over time, and you need to, at the start, share your vision, great, but also share the steps and the detail of how this person can support you to get to that vision.
Yeah. So it sounds like the business owners have to put in a little bit extra work at the beginning.
Yeah, so virtual assistants are great, and they're a great way to be able to get support in your business so that you can be more strategic or take holidays. But yeah, it does take work. I say to all people who are, that we're considering whether we're going to work together, this is a commitment, obviously a financial commitment, but also a commitment of time and energy. And I need to make sure that you know what you're up for around that and you're actually committed to it, because it's, not worth it for the virtual assistant or for us if they're not as well. So that's something that is really important to recognize about if you're going to do it, that you are committed to doing that.
Okay, great. So far we've covered off mistakes that business owners make when outsourcing and delegating is not getting the right person for the right job. Then we've got delegating a problem that's too big, so they haven't either shared their overall vision and outcome they want, or they haven't given enough detail around exactly what part they want the virtual assistant to solve. What's the third thing that business owners struggle with when delegating and outsourcing?
So that they wait till the end to find out it's not working. So this often happens if someone delegates a problem that's too big. Oh, just fix my social media or something. And then, in 2 weeks' time, they check in and go, how's it going? And the virtual assistant's still going there. I've got no idea what you mean by that. And yeah, sure, the virtual assistant should say, hey, I've got no idea what you mean by it, and we can support them to, raise that with their business owner. And we often do. We definitely do when we become aware of it. But it's also up to the business owner to check in saying, hey, what's your understanding of what I've just shared? Hey, how's it going? Hey, is there anything I can support you with? And then you can have structures to actually monitor what's going on. And so obviously it's a fine line here between micromanaging and let people, fly free. But it's something that you need to explore. So at the start of working with something, you usually have more check-ins, more monitoring, more controls, more reports in place. And then over time, that with the frequency and the nature of those will reduce. So when you start working with a virtual assistant and, they're just learning about you and you're learning about them, you should probably meet with them every day, even if it's just for 15 minutes, and check in, see how they're going. Also, when you start working with a virtual assistant, they should be sending you an end-of-day report, so what they've worked on that day, what they're focusing on tomorrow, so you can see where they're at and just, tweak things if it needs to be tweaked. If you delegate something, either you're working with someone new or you're delegating a completely new task, it's about checking in with them and creating that structure so you can check in and see how it's going instead of just waiting to the end and going, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah. And so it sounds like this is something that's crucial, this checking in, making sure that people are on track, supporting them in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. And so this either needs to take place from the business owner, or if the business owner already has a team, a member of the team who's committed to doing it. And so we check in with the business owner and the virtual assistant once they start working with us weekly, basically until they tell us they don't want to see our faces every week, and then we reduce the frequency because it is so important. It's so important to make these tweaks. We've got a client, Maureen, and in day 3 of them working together, she called me up and she was so frustrated. They were just like passing in the night in terms of communication. I got them both on a Zoom call, 20 minutes into it. We just tweaked a bit of the communication. They're flying. Now the client doesn't really, need to talk to me or want to talk to me unless we're just having a social conversation because they're flying and she's getting the outcomes she's wanting and she's now referring us. So that's an example where on day 3, it wasn't working. And it's those tweaks to make sure it is working to that result in the success.
Yeah, because sometimes from personal experience, you just sort of, if it feels heavy or a bit too hard, it is tempting to put your head in the sand and just blame someone else, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it before. You know me. I've delegated things before, and it's come back not how I wanted, and I've been all grumpy. But I always need to look at myself and go, okay, well, what role did I have to play in it? Was I not clear enough? Did I not check in? Did I not put the right support in for this person? Because independent of who I blame, I got the same outcome from my business, and I've got the ability to, to have some control over how I act and how I delegate and how I can support this person to get the outcome I want for my business. So I find, I do turn into Suki Carmen sometimes, but, once I get out of Suki mode and just reverting to, okay, how can I get the outcomes that I want? Maureen, I was speaking to a client recently, and he was in a bit of a bad mood with the virtual assistant. And I said, I just need you to be like, nice. Like, he was having a hard time or whatever. He's like, no, he needs to earn respect or whatever. And I'm like, I can't make this work. Like, you just need to be nice. Give it 2 weeks. Anyway, spoke to him yesterday. They're flying again. It's all good. And it's like, you need to take responsibility. You need to be nice. And I'm not opposed to like calling something off. Like, if it's not working with a business owner and a virtual assistant, like, let's call it off. Sometimes I even like almost make it happen. But if you want to make it work, then you need to put effort into it.
Yeah. So it's just like any relationship. You need to put ongoing effort. If you neglect it, it's going to go downhill.
Yeah.
And if you can't down the track, someone else is there to, even if it requires less effort, but you need someone else to be that person to touch base with.
Yes.
Okay, so number 4 is that people get wrong when they're delegating and outsourcing is not owning the strategy. Tell me about this one, Carmen.
So this is something I find quite interesting. So sometimes business owners just get overwhelmed and they're just like, oh, I just need someone to fix this problem for me. Could you just fix my LinkedIn marketing? And this ties in with the problem that's too big. Like, you can't just say to someone, unless they're a LinkedIn marketing expert, and even then I still believe you should own your strategy as a business owner, just fix it. So it's really about owning it. So just say, Maureen, we've tried a lot of things in our business that hasn't worked. Like, I can think of some LinkedIn direct messages, for example. So whether I come up with the idea or the virtual assistant comes up with the idea, I need to own the fact that we're going to put time and energy and resources into doing whatever we're doing, like sending this direct message, and it may or may not work. So it's about being accountable for the outcomes as well. So I can't delegate to a virtual assistant, oh, I just want you to like get me leads on LinkedIn, because I need to own the strategy. I need to go, yeah, I think this is a good bet. I think this might work. The virtual assistant can implement the strategy. They might even have come up with the idea, but it's about me owning that, yes, we're going to do this. Yes, I'm going to just accept the outcomes that come. Yes, any outfalls that come from it. And so it's about owning the strategy and owning the outcomes from it.
Yeah. So an example, there are like that one where LinkedIn is going to send out direct messages to all your connections on LinkedIn. You might be sending out an offer for an eBOOK or something to support your contacts. But you don't really know whether it's going to be work or not, which is a lot around business, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that you owning the strategy means that you're willing to risk it, put in time and effort, and getting your virtual assistant to do the same.
Yeah. So, for example, Maureen, yesterday I was talking to someone and she's like, oh, I want people to talk to people on Facebook and just have conversations and then work out if they're suitable for a sales conversation and whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, that's all good. But like, what's your process? What's your strategy? Like, you can't just go, I need you to line up 5 people a week for me to have a sales conversation with. Like, you can't delegate that thing. Like, that's just not appropriate. Like, as a business owner, like, what's your strategy for getting this? Have you already got this in place? Is it working? Is there a process that this person can follow? And so when I hear those things in other business owners, like, alarm bells sort of ring, and I work to manage the expectations around, you know, the appropriate things that you can delegate. So yeah.
And what I find really interesting there is if you don't know, that's when you put in money to buying a consultant's time, or, you know, getting answers from other people. And then you get the answers, and then you can get your virtual assistant to follow that process. That's another option, isn't it?
Yeah. And so, for example, Facebook ads is a great example for us because it's a convoluted process. And Maureen and I have been involved in many strategic discussions around Facebook ads. And our virtual assistant, an amazing virtual assistant, Charles, our marketing manager, has been interacting with a Facebook expert. And so it's like this ongoing, evolving thing. Maureen and I aren't in there setting the ads up, but we're owning whatever strategy we chose to do. So if we go, oh, let's, you know, promote the VA book with these words, or let's now retarget people, or let's try and get meetings with people, or whatever it is we're owning to go, yeah, like we, you know, with the support from our team, we think that's a decent bet. Let's give it a go. And so we're just not going to Charles, oh, just do it all. Like, just like, we don't want to know, just get us our clients. Like, that's not appropriate.
Yeah. So, and we put money, like, we're putting our money where our mouth is as well, in terms of that, and then owning, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's part of business.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 5 is not recognizing the importance of relationship and context. So this is another mistake that business owners make when delegating. So could you share a little bit about this one, please?
Yeah, I think people underestimate how delegation is all about relationships and context. So often I hear people go, oh, I want someone to be like a mini me. I want someone just to preempt what I want and to read my mind. And like, it might sound facetious, but these are words that I hear from people. And the thing is, over time, you might get close to that. You might get someone who goes, oh, when Carmen says this is what she means. But you know, as they build the relationship with me, they learn about the business. The value really comes as that happens. But at the start, you're going to have to break things down for them. You're going to have to spend time sharing the context of which you work. How does your business work? What do Australians mean when they say this? How does your industry work? And build that relationship with the virtual assistant. So back to the, you know, question about outsourcing at the start, it's not a word that I really like, because it's often associated by going, oh, I'll just put this problem over there. This person can do the work and solve it. It's not. Working successfully with a virtual assistant is a relationship. It gets better with time as you grow together.
Yeah. So it feels like one of the things that people do is they just want to hand things over and not take them back, or just hand over everything and not build that relationship. It's like, it doesn't matter who it is, I just want to give it to someone else to do.
Yeah, and I completely understand that urge. I have those urges myself, but to have a good outcome over the long term, I think you need to be quite strategic in how you do it. So, for example, when we have virtual assistants starting working with business owners, I often say to the business owner, let's pick 1 or 2 things out of the plethora of 100 things that you want support with. Let's pick 1 or 2 high volume, low risk that they're going to start with. And let's get that started. And then let's build it up from there. And so there are things, Maureen, that you and I just never going to do again. We don't post on social media. We don't accept LinkedIn connection requests. We don't do all these things. but it's taken time to get to that.
Yeah.
So people
give some more
see like
examples of the high volume, low risk. So you've given a couple of good ones. What's some other ones?
Yeah. So, for example, if you're wanting someone to support you with your email management, there might be all different types of categories of emails that they could manage down the track. But maybe there's one at the moment which is a particular type of query or a request to meet. And maybe there's a process around that one. So, get the person supporting you on that type of email first. And you do the rest of them. And then once that's happening, then work on the next thing. Or it could be sending out connection requests to people on LinkedIn. That's something that should be done every day. And so it would make sense to get your virtual assistant doing that. And once they've got that, then they can start working on something else.
Yeah. So it sounds like just building rather than piling.
Layering. And the thing is, like, I don't want to sound like I've got this all right. Like the team is supporting this today, and I'm sure many of them have had very frustrating interactions with me where I've got these things wrong. And so it's not about being perfect, but it's about being conscious of this stuff so that you can monitor how it's going. And if it's not going the way you want, you think, okay, well, which thing haven't I got right? How can I adjust it so I can get the outcomes I want from my business?
Yeah. And then also recognizing what sort of person you are. So I do want to just hand over, and other people won't hand over enough or hold on to it being perfect. So I think, from what you said to do today, it's also about being mindful of what sort of person you are and how you work.
Yeah. And I'm all about, like, I just bang on about outcomes. And so sometimes I have to flex the way I'd naturally want to be to get the outcome I want. And so it's about recognizing where you are, where your team members are, where your relationships at, and then doing what you need to do so that you can, free up that time to be more strategic, or go on that holiday, or pick up the kids from school every day, or whatever the outcome you want is. It's about doing what you need to do to get to that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your insights today, Carmen, around mistakes people make about outsourcing and delegation. Where would you send people to get more information about hiring a virtual assistant?
Yeah, so go check out globalteams.com.au. We've got a whole heap of resources on there, including Maureen's book, What a Virtual Assistant Can Do For You, which Maureen's banned me from reading because if I read it, she told me it's never going to be finished. I'm going to add too many things to it. But I talked to many people who have read Maureen's book and say that it's really, really helpful. It's helped them to get clear around the sort of things that virtual assistants can support them with. And we've got a whole heap of other resources on there as well, like the 10 things you should never ever do in your business and how to get your virtual assistant working on it, and other things with really awesome examples about how virtual assistants can support you.
Yes, so feel free to head to the website. Thanks, Carmen, for joining us. I love the way that you are sharing with everyone how we don't have it, perfect all the time, but continually improving, and some really great tips today around how to delegate effectively. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
So if you'd like to see more interviews with amazing business owners sharing extraordinary insights, click subscribe, then click the bell button, then click all, and we'll notify you.